There's a kind of silence that speaks louder than words. It's the silence when you begin to watch, not react. You stop filling the space with explanations, excuses, or reassurances, and simply observe. The Stoics understood something we often forget. People reveal themselves not when you ask them who they are, but when you quietly pay attention to how they move through life. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You can judge the quality of a man by the things he finds amusing." I've learned that you can also judge the quality of a friend by the way they behave when they think you're not measuring them. A fake friend rarely announces themselves with betrayal on day one. They arrive as warmth, as charm, as someone who gets you, but over time, patterns emerge. They flinch at your successes. They disappear when you need them. They turn every conversation into a mirror reflecting only themselves. The Stoic way isn't to rush in and accuse, nor to wall yourself off completely. It's to step back, breathe, and see clearly, without being swept away by anger, hurt, or even hope. Like a still pond, you let the ripples of emotion settle until the reflection is sharp enough to read. I've found that when you practice this kind of silent observation, the truth doesn't hide for long, and once you see it, you can choose wisely, not in bitterness, but in freedom. If you value this kind of deep reflection on life, relationships, and the timeless wisdom of Stoicism, take a moment to subscribe so you won't miss the next conversation we share. Because the journey to understanding others always begins with understanding yourself. Number 1. Watch how they handle your success. You can tell a lot about someone, not when you're down, but when you're rising. Struggle has a way of drawing people toward you, sometimes out of compassion, other times out of curiosity, or even quiet satisfaction at seeing you humbled. But success is a mirror that reveals what lies beneath the surface of their smile. The Stoics often reminded themselves to observe human nature without surprise or resentment. Epictetus taught that it's not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. And so, when you succeed, when life finally rewards your work, watch, without judgment, how those around you respond. A true friend's joy is untainted. They celebrate without hesitation, without subtle disclaimers like, "must be nice for you," or, "well, you just got lucky." Their eyes don't shift into the distance when you share good news. They don't change the subject, downplay your effort, or find ways to remind you of your flaws. They stand in your sunlight without needing to cast a shadow. A fake friend, though, might disguise their discomfort in polite applause. Their compliments feel like they were measured out with a teaspoon. They might avoid asking for details about your achievement, as if your success is a language they refuse to learn. Sometimes the truth appears in micro moments, the faint tightening of their jaw, the pause before responding, the sudden need to talk about their own accomplishments. I've seen this in my own life. When I achieved something I had worked toward for years, I expected certain people to be there, beaming with me. Instead, I found myself explaining, justifying, even softening my excitement so it wouldn't make them uncomfortable. And that's when I realized, if someone can't stand with you at your highest, they don't truly stand with you at all. Stoicism teaches us to accept that envy is a part of human nature. It's not our role to fix someone's feelings, but to notice the reality and adjust our trust accordingly. A friend who envies you may not always wish you harm, but their inability to celebrate your victories creates a subtle fracture. And over time, those fractures grow. Imagine a tree after a heavy storm. Some branches remain strong, holding firm against the wind. Others crack under pressure, unable to carry the weight. Your success is that storm. It tests the integrity of every connection. A branch that breaks in the sunshine will never survive the next gust of wind. Ask yourself, when you share your progress, who listens with genuine curiosity? Who asks, "How did you do it?" because they want to learn from you, not compete with you? Who claps for you when no one else is watching? The Stoic path is not to cut people off in anger, but to move them gently to the right distance in your life. Some will be close enough to hear your heartbeats, others far enough that their shadow can't touch your light. And here's the beauty of seeing clearly. When you remove those who shrink in your success, you make more space for those who grow with you. People who inspire you, challenge you, and rejoice without measure when you rise. Remember, real friendship isn't tested in the dark, it's tested in the light. Number 2, notice their presence in your struggles. It's in the quiet heaviness of life's harder days that the masks begin to fall. When you are winning, it's easy for people to stand beside you. Your victories cost them nothing. But when the storm hits, when your name is not being praised, when your energy is low, when life takes something from you, that is when you truly see who is there for you and who is only there for what you gave them. The Stoics understood hardship not as an interruption, but as the very stage where character reveals itself. Seneca wrote, "Adversity is the occasion to test a friend's loyalty." In other words, the moment you are struggling is not just about you surviving. It's about quietly observing who remains when there is nothing to gain from staying. A fake friend often vanishes in this season. They might disguise their absence in polite excuses. "I've just been so busy. I didn't want to bother you." But the truth is, presence in hard times is rarely about convenience. It's about care, and genuine care doesn't wait for the perfect schedule. I've lived through moments where I thought certain people would show up without being asked, but the calls never came. The messages were short, polite, but hollow. Meanwhile, others I barely expected appeared, with warmth and steadiness. It was humbling, and it taught me to stop assuming loyalty based on history alone. From a Stoic perspective, this isn't about resenting those who leave. It's about accepting their choice as a reflection of where they truly stand. Epictetus reminds us, when someone is hurting you, remember, they act according to their view of what is right. If someone believes that disappearing is acceptable, that is their truth. You can't force them to see differently, but you can choose where you place your trust next time. Think of your life like a fire in the cold. In summer, anyone might sit by it, laughing, sharing, enjoying the warmth without thought. But in winter, when the wind cuts through and the snow begins to fall, only a few will stay close enough to keep you company. And you will remember them. Ask yourself, who checks in without needing a reason? Who asks how you're doing and actually waits for the answer? Who doesn't just speak words of support, but offers quiet, consistent action? The Stoic practice here is to observe without bitterness. Don't cling to the hurt. Instead, use the clarity to rearrange your circle. Some people can only walk beside you when the road is smooth. That doesn't make them evil. It simply means they're not built for the weight of your storms. And here's the shift I've found powerful. Instead of mourning those who leave, pour gratitude into the ones who stay. Those who bring calm, who remind you of your own strength, who help you stand. Not because they expect something in return, but because your well-being matters to them. Because in the end, a friend who remains in your winter is a friend who deserves to share in your spring. Number 3, pay attention to the currency of conversations. There's a kind of wealth that isn't measured in money. It's measured in attention, in presence, in the way two people exchange pieces of themselves through words. And if you listen closely, you'll notice something. Every friendship runs on a kind of currency. The question is that currency genuine care or is it transaction? The Stoics often reminded themselves to examine the substance of interactions. Marcus Aurelius advised himself to be attentive to the words and actions of others, for they reveal the state of their soul. In our time, this wisdom feels almost sharper, because so much of what passes for connection today is surface-level performance. A real friend speaks with you in a way that leaves you fuller, not drained. They're not keeping mental score, tallying favors, or steering every conversation toward their needs. They ask about your life, and they mean it. They remember small details from months ago and follow up, not because it benefits them, but because it's part of who they are. A fake friend, though, often treats conversation like a marketplace. Every word is an investment aimed at getting a return. They're warm when they need something, silent when they don't. When you share something vulnerable, they might listen, but there's a distance in their eyes, as if they're waiting for their turn to talk. Sometimes you'll notice the subtle shift. They only reach out when you can offer them help, opportunity, or validation. I've had friendships where, after months, I realized nearly every exchange was built around their needs. If I removed myself from giving, stopped offering advice, connections, or emotional labor, the conversation simply stopped. And that silence was my answer. A Stoic approach here isn't about paranoia, it's about awareness. It's pausing mid-interaction to quietly ask yourself, am I being seen here, or am I being used? The answer will often be clear in the rhythm of the dialogue. Think of it like a garden. Some friendships are like mutual planting. You water their soil, they water yours, and over time, both sides flourish. Other friendships are like planting in barren ground. You pour water and effort into it, but nothing grows, and the soil never gives back. If you keep pouring into that ground, eventually you will be empty. There's also the subtlety of how they speak to you. A true friend's words are both truthful and kind. They don't flatter you to keep you comfortable, nor do they use honesty as a weapon. They know when to challenge you and when to simply hold space for your thoughts. A fake friend might lean heavily on flattery, telling you only what keeps them in your good graces, or they might withhold affirmation entirely, ensuring you always feel a little off balance around them. Both approaches are forms of control, not connection. Stoic wisdom calls us to value truth above comfort. Epictetus said, "Only the educated are free." And in friendship, education comes from paying attention to patterns, to tone, to the unspoken motives behind the words. So ask yourself, after you talk to this person, do you feel lighter or heavier? Do you sense reciprocity, or does it always lean one way? If you stripped away the benefits you give them, would they still show up in your life? This isn't about keeping score, it's about ensuring that your emotional energy is invested where it can actually live, grow, and be honored. Because in the end, the currency of a real friendship is presence without agenda. Number 4, observe their relationship with truth. Truth is the quiet foundation of every meaningful relationship. Without it, you may still have laughter, shared memories, and pleasant moments. But you won't have trust. And without trust, the friendship is a house built on sand, waiting for the first tide to wash it away. The Stoics understood that truth is not just about facts. It's about alignment between words, intentions, and actions. Seneca wrote, "A liar is not believed even when he speaks the truth." Once truth is fractured, it's difficult, sometimes impossible, to rebuild the bridge. A real friend will speak honestly, even when the truth is uncomfortable. They'll tell you when you're drifting from your values, when you're making a choice that could hurt you, or when they themselves have failed you. Their honesty is not a weapon, it's an offering, given with care and grounded in respect. A fake friend's relationship with truth is different. They may hide behind flattery to avoid conflict, telling you only what they think you want to hear. Or they might simply omit key details, not in a protective way, but in a way that keeps them safe from accountability. They may let you believe a falsehood because correcting it would inconvenience them. And sometimes they'll even twist truth subtly, planting seeds that serve their interests at the expense of your clarity. I've seen this in my own life. Moments where someone's silence told me more than their words ever could. They knew the truth, but sharing it might have made them look bad, or might have put our friendship to the test. So they chose comfort over courage. And while I could still speak to them afterward, the depth of trust between us had thinned to a thread. The Stoic way is to observe these patterns without rushing to judgment. Epictetus reminds us that people act according to what they believe is good for them. If someone chooses dishonesty, they are following their own internal logic, even if that logic erodes the bond between you. Think of truth like a compass in a vast forest. Even in dense fog, a working compass will always guide you toward the right path. But if your compass is broken, if your friend's words cannot be trusted, then every step you take together risks leading you further from where you truly want to go. Ask yourself, does this person tell the truth even when it costs them something? Do they give you clarity, or do they leave you guessing? Do they correct their mistakes when they're wrong, or do they let falsehoods linger because it's easier? A fake friend might think that hiding the truth protects the relationship, but the opposite is true. Every unspoken fact, every altered detail, every withheld word builds a quiet distance. And by the time you notice, the friendship is no longer what it once was. The Stoic discipline here is twofold. First, to model truth yourself. Speak clearly, keep your word, admit your faults. Second, to keep those who value truth close, and to allow those who compromise it to remain at a safe distance. Because in the end, a friend who will not tell you the truth is not protecting you. They're protecting themselves, and you deserve more than that. The freedom of knowing who's real. There's a deep calm that comes when you stop trying to force people to be what they're not. When you see clearly through the lens of Stoic wisdom, you stop clinging to illusions. You stop excusing patterns that have repeated too many times. And you stop pouring your time, trust, and heart into hands that can't hold them. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to love only what happens and what is destined for you. This doesn't mean you harden your heart or isolate yourself. It means you accept people as they are, not as you wish they would be. A fake friend revealed is not a tragedy, it's a gift of clarity. When you identify who's real, you gain a rare freedom. You no longer feel the weight of performing for those who don't truly value you. You no longer fear losing people whose loyalty was never genuine to begin with. And in that space, you can invest fully in the rare souls who celebrate your wins, stay through your losses, speak truth when it matters, and show up with no agenda but love and respect. Think of it like clearing a path in a dense forest. Every fallen branch you remove, every thorn you cut away, opens more room for light to reach the ground. And in that light, new and better growth appears. So don't mourn the ones you've recognized as false. Thank them silently for showing you their truth. And then step forward into a life surrounded by those who are not just near you, but with you. Because the greatest freedom is not having many friends. It's knowing the ones you keep are real.